Hi everybody, so this video is going to go over the Chapter 4 review to prepare us for our tests that we'll be taking tomorrow. So this assignment is going to go over every type of question that you are going to see on your test. So this is an extremely important assignment just to make sure that you are prepared for what you're going to see on the test. Make sure that you are following along and getting all of the answers correct on your assignment, and also trying to actually learn how to do all of the procedures that I'm going to show you as we go through this assignment. Now, as you're going through this, there is a little gear at the bottom right corner of your screen. And if you think I'm going a little too fast while I go through here, feel free to click on that gear and change the speed down to, say, 0.75, and it will slow me down a little so it's a little easier for you to follow along. Also, if you miss something or don't understand something, just go ahead and rewind the video a little bit and just listen to that part again. If you're still confused about anything at all, make sure you come and ask me about it so that you are prepared for your quiz or for your test when you get it tomorrow. All right, let's go ahead and jump into this first one here. It says find the slope and the y-intercept from the following. Now, this is extremely easy if you know where to look. So we are using this equation here, y equals mx plus b. This is going to be the equation that you use for a lot of the answers on this assignment and on your test tomorrow. M in this equation is the slope, and b in this equation is the y-intercept. So if we're trying to find the slope m and the y-intercept b, all we have to do is look at this equation here. So the number that's in the place of m here, which is the slope, is 2. The number that's in the place of b over here is 12. So our slope here is 2, and our y-intercept here is 12. For all of these, even though you get the answers from me, you still might accidentally type the wrong number. So make sure you are always hitting that check answer button to make sure that you are correct before you move on. All right, moving on to number 2 here. So this is from the most recent section that we just went over. It's given us 3 numbers and wants us to find the next 3 in line. So the first thing that you need to find is what is the common difference of all of these numbers. So I mentioned before the easiest way to do this is to take one of the numbers, not the first one, but any of the other numbers. Here we have 2, and subtract the number before it. So let's take 0 and subtract the number before it, which is 3. And that's going to give us 0 minus 3 is negative 3. Now, if we did it with 3, we have 3 minus 6. So we're just picking a number and subtracting the number before it. And that is also going to give us negative 3. So that means the common difference here is negative 3. So we start with 6 and we add negative 3, or we just subtract 3. Those are the same thing. So 6 minus 3 gives us 3. We subtract 3 again, that gives us 0. So to find the next 3, we just have to keep subtracting 3. So 0 minus 3 is negative 3. And then negative 3 minus 3 is negative 6. And negative 6 minus 3 gives us negative 9. So those are the next 3 numbers in this sequence. So we have negative 3, negative 6, and then negative 9. All right, let's move on to number 3. So here, this was 2 lessons back. We're looking at scatter plots here. This is showing the amount x, which is this axis here, of sugar, and the number of calories, y. So this is our y-axis, shows calories over here, in 10 different smoothies. So each one is represented by one of these points. Now down here it says how many calories are in the smoothie. That contains 56 grams of sugar. So we're looking at the grams of sugar down here, and we need to find 56. Well, here's 54. The next line is 58. So that means 56 is right in the middle of these 2 lines. If we follow it up, we get to this point right here, and follow that over to the left, and we can see there are 270 calories in that smoothie. How many grams of sugar are in the smoothie that contains 320 calories? So now we're looking at the calories and we go up to 320 and we follow that across till we find this point here and then go down and we see there are 70 grams of sugar in that one. So just to wrap up everything this graph is showing us, what tends to happen to the number of calories as the number of grams of sugar increase. So here we see the number of sugar grams are going up as we go to the right, and as we go to the right, we see the calories are increasing. So that means as the number of grams of sugar goes up, the number of calories also go up. Important thing to realize when you're talking about drinks that you may have, like a can of Coke or some of those energy drinks that some of you guys drink, take a look at the grams of sugar. And more grams of sugar, the more calories there are going to be in there. And they say if you're getting a lot of calories from drinks, that is not very healthy. So just kind of keep that in mind when you're making your decisions on these things. I personally always try to find drinks that have low sugar content, low calories. That way I get calories from the food that I eat and not the things that I drink. But that has nothing to do with math, so I don't know why I'm talking about it. So let's move on. All right, number 4 here says write an equation in slope-intercept form of the line shown. So here we have a line, and we have to pick which of these equations. They're all in slope-intercept form. They're all y equals mx plus b. So m is our slope. So is our slope 2 or is it negative 2? Well, we don't even have to count. This goes down and to the right, and anytime a slope is going down to the right, we know it is a negative slope. So that narrows it down to B or D. Just the fact that it goes down to the right, we know it's a negative slope. It's either going to be B or D. So the difference between B and D is that we have a y-intercept of 3 or 4. So again, if we take a look at this, we go up on our y to see where does this cross the y-axis. Well, the very top of this graph is 3. So 1, 2, 3. And this is not quite reaching it. So this line is going to keep going, and it's going to cross our y-intercept up here, which is at 4. So negative 2x plus 4 should be our, yes, it is our correct equation. All right, number 5 here, it says find the slope of the given points. So we're given 2 points, and we need to find the slope. So here is our slope equation. We do y2 minus y1 and put that over x2 minus x1. So we're given 2 points. First thing we have to do is just assign x1, y1. So this is going to be x1 and y1. And these are going to be x2 and y2. So y2 minus y1. Well, my y2 here is 3. So 3 minus my y1 is negative 2. So 3 minus negative 2. Now remember, anytime you have a minus, a negative, just change that to a plus. So x2 minus x1, our x2 is negative 4. Minus our x1 is 6. So negative 4 minus 6. Now 3 plus 2 is 5. And negative 4 minus 6 is negative 10. So that means our slope here is negative 5 over 10. And 5 over 10 reduces down to 1/2. So our slope here is going to be C, negative 1/2. All right, for number 6 here, it says identify the slope and a point from the following equation. So what we have here, this is written in what we call slope point form. It's different than slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. Slope point form, or point slope form, it's actually called point slope form, is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1, where y1 and x1 are points and m is your slope. So the first thing they want us to do is find out what the points are. So our points here are, so it's x minus x1. So our x1 is what's going to be right here. Now remember, it's x minus x1. So if you see x plus 2, that means it actually was x minus negative 2, and since it was minus negative, we change it to a plus. So x1 here is actually negative 2. Now our point here, it's y minus y1, so our y1 here is 3. Now that's a very confusing part of this chapter. It's something that a lot of people mix up, so make sure you have that set in your head. It's y minus y1. So if y1 is positive 3, then it's going to be y minus 3. Since x1 is negative 2, it's actually x minus negative 2, which means we are going to turn that to a plus. So if you see a plus, the point is actually a negative. Also remember, x is always written first in an ordered pair. Your x is over here, your y is over here. So that's why we wrote the negative 2 first, negative 2 comma 3. Now slope, this is the easy part. Just to bring this back up, remember m is our slope. It's the number outside of the parentheses. And here our slope is 1/3. So easy enough to figure that one out. This part's a little more confusing, but our slope's really easy to find. Our slope's right there. It is 1/3. All right, so on our next one here, this one is going to take a minute. So on this next one, it gives us 3 different lines. 2 points on 3 different lines, and then it says which of these are perpendicular. So first thing we have to know is, what does it mean if they're perpendicular slopes? So if something is perpendicular, that means they have opposite reciprocals as slopes. So if the slope of one is 2/3, the slope of the other is going to be negative 3/2. So we're going to make it the opposite. One's positive, one's negative, and we are going to flip that fraction upside down. So let's take a look at what the slopes are on each of these 3 lines. So first of all, we have our equation here, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. We have our points over here, so I labeled all of these are going to be our x1 for each one. All of these are going to be our y1. These are going to be our x2s. These are going to be our y2s. So we'll take our first one here. Y2 is 3 minus y1 is 1. We're going to put that over. X2 is 0 and x1 is negative 2. So remember, that's minus negative 2 that we're going to make a plus. So our slope here is 2/2, which is actually also just 1. All right, so our next one here is going to be, let's just separate these here. Our next one here is going to be y2 is 4 minus 1, our y1, over 6 is our x2 minus 4 is our y1, or sorry, our x1. And here we have a slope of 3/2. All right, so on this next one, we have 1 minus 3. And we're going to put that over 4 minus 1. So here we have 1 minus 3 is negative 2, and 4 minus 1 is 3. So this was just a coincidence. I did not even know the answer to this question yet. I had not done the math when I just randomly chose these, but it worked out absolutely perfectly. Well, except they're flipped, but that's okay. So 3/2 is our slope here, and then negative 2/3 is our slope here. So these are opposite reciprocals. One's positive, one's negative, and then they have the fraction flipped upside down. So that means B and C are going to be our perpendicular lines. So let's get these written in. Our slope for line A was 1. Our slope for line B was 3/2. And our slope for line C was negative 2/3. And that means that B and C are perpendicular because they have negative reciprocals, opposite reciprocals, negative reciprocals. They mean the same thing of each other. Let's make sure I did everything right, and we're good. All right, moving on here. This time they're asking us which lines are parallel. Now, parallel lines are even easier to recognize because they all are going to have the exact same slope. All right, so we're actually going to solve this one the exact same way, y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1, to find the slope of each of these lines here. Again, I just put each of the points over here and labeled these x1, these y1, these x2, these y2, and now we have to do is plug these into this formula over here. So here our y2 is 0, minus our y1 is 2, so minus negative 2, which is going to become plus 2. And here x2 is 1, and x1 is negative 1, so again minus negative 1, and so 1 plus 1. So again, for line A is 2 over 2, which of course equals 1. All right, so on this one we have negative 2 minus 2, negative 2 minus 2, and then for our x's we have 2 minus 4. Negative 2 minus 2 is negative 4, and this is 2 minus 4 is negative 2. Anytime we have a negative over a negative, it's going to become a positive, and 4 divided by 2 is 2. So our slope here is 2. Let's see this last one here. We have 1 minus 2, and we have negative 1 minus 0. So that means, so 1 minus 2 is negative 1. Negative 1 minus 0 is also negative 1. Any number over itself, whether it's positive or negative, if it's over itself, it is positive 1. So that means our parallel lines here are A and C. They both have a slope of 1. So for line A, it was 1. For line B, it was 2. For line C, it was 1. And A and C are parallel because they have the same slope. So number 9 here is all about positive, negative, or no correlation. Remember, correlation is just talking about how one thing will affect the other. If one is going up and it makes the other go up, that's positive correlation. If one goes up and it makes the other go down, that is a negative correlation. If the two have nothing to do with each other whatsoever, then it's going to be no correlation. So if we read this here, it says the number of people who watch a hit television show and the number of oranges sold at the grocery store. Now, these two things are going to have absolutely nothing to do with each other whatsoever. The number of oranges sold and anything that's on television are going to have nothing in common whatsoever. How many people watch this show? If it's going up, it's not going to change the number of oranges sold at a grocery store. So the answer here is going to be no correlation. If we saw this on a graph, the dots would just be up, down, left, right, and everywhere. There would be no rhyme or reason to it. One would not be affecting the other in any significant way. All right, moving on to number 10, still talking about correlation on this one. So here on this one, this is what I was talking about on the other one, number of vehicles owned and the person's age. They might have some correlation. If you're older, you might own more vehicles, but probably not. It probably has to do with how much money you have. That really has to do. A poor older person might just have one vehicle, and a rich 20-year-old might have 5. So that's why these are just kind of all over the place. So you would say that graph A shows no correlation. Now, line for B here, again, we're looking at coats sold per day and the average daily temperatures. Now, the average daily temperatures is certainly going to affect the amount of coats that are sold per day. The higher the temperature goes up, the lower the coats sold is going to go. So we're going to sell less coats if it is hotter temperatures. We can see this has a down to the right slope. This is a negative slope if we drew a line of fit in here, and that means that this has a negative correlation. As temperatures rise, coats sold go down. So if one's going up and the other's coming down, that means it is a negative correlation. So for number 11 here, we have an equation, y equals negative 2x plus 7. Again, this is our y equals mx plus b, our slope-intercept equation. M is our slope, that's the number next to the x, and then b is our y-intercept. That's the number on the end over here. The y-intercept tells us where this line is going to cross the y-axis. So that is going to give us one of our points, and then we are going to use the slope to find our other point. Our slope here is -2 over 1. Any whole number is just that number over 1 as a fraction. So that means our slope here is rise over run. So our top number is going to tell us how many we go up or down. Since it's negative, we're going to go down. And then our run tells us how many we will go to the right. So we'll go to the right 1. So first thing we're going to do on these is find our y-intercept. So our y-intercept is where the line is going to cross the y-axis. That's the one that goes up and down. So that's going to be at +7. So we're going to put a dot. We got to click the line over here. Put a dot at 7. Then we are going to move this dot over to where our next point is going to be. To find our next point, we're going to follow our slope. Again, it's -2 over 1, so that means we're going to go down 2 and then right 1. So if it's negative, you go down. If it's positive, you go up and always go to the right. So here we have -2 over 1, so we went down 2 and right 1. And now we have our line. And we're good. All right, moving on to number 12. So on number 12 here, so here they just want us to match these equations with the slope and the y-intercept of all of these. So remember, the number next to the x, that's your slope, and the number on the end here, that's your y-intercept, that's b. M is your slope. So if we have m is 2 and b is 5, find the one that says 2x plus 5, that'd be that one. And then next one, we have a slope of 3 and a y-intercept of 5, so that'd be 3x plus 5. And then our last one, now we have a slope of 5 and a y-intercept of 4, so that would be 5x plus 4. So there's our 3 equations that go with those. All right, for number 13, this is very similar to number 1 here. It's just asking us which equation has a slope of 6 and a y-intercept of -5. So that would be the one that says 6x minus 5. So easy one there. For number 14, all right, a few different things we need to do on this one. So it says find the slope and the y-intercept for the line passing through the following 2 points. So it's going to give us 2 points here. Neither one of these points are a y-intercept. So that means we need to put this into point-slope form. So the first thing we have to do on this one is to find our slope. So we're going to use the slope equation, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. I labeled our points as x1 and y1, and then x2 and y2 up here. So our is -4 minus our y1 is 2. We're going to put that over our x2 is -5 minus our x1 is -2. And if you have minus a negative, you're going to change that into a plus. So -4 minus 2 is -6. And that's going to be over -5 plus 2 is -3. Now, again, negative over negative is going to be a positive, and 6 divided by 3 is going to be 2. So our slope here is going to be -2. So now that we know our slope is -2, we could replace m with 2. Next things we have to replace here are our y and our x, x1 and y1. And we could use these if these are x1 and y1. We could also use these if we wanted to. This one only has one negative, so I'm going to use these just because I feel it's going to be a little easier. So we'll use 2. So our x1 is -2. This is just going to remain x minus -2, and if it's minus -2, we're going to make that a plus. And over here we have y minus y1. Our y1 is 2. So y minus 2 equals 2 times x plus 2. So we know our slope here, it's 2, so we go ahead and put that in. We don't know our y-intercept yet, so we're going to have to put this here into slope-intercept form. So the way we do that, there's a 2-step process. number one step, we need to keep this left side the same, and we distribute over on this side. So we take this outside the parentheses, multiply by each of the terms inside. So 2 times x is 2x, and 2 times 2 is 4. All right, the second step is to get rid of this minus 2 to isolate our y. It's a minus 2, so we need to add 2 to both sides. And we end up with those cancel, leaving us y equals 2x plus 6. So this is our slope-intercept equation. Y equals 2x plus 6. So now we have that, and our y-intercept is going to be our b over here. Y equals mx plus b. B is our intercept, so our intercept here is going to be 6. All right, so for number 15 here, again, we have to pretty much do the same thing. This one's a little easier because they are actually telling us what the slope is. So on this one, they told us that m equals 5. That's our slope, so we can plug that in for m. And then we have our point here. We have our x1 and y1. So our y1 here is 2, so y minus 2 goes on the left side. And then on the right, we have 5 times x minus our x1, which is 4. So 5 minus 4. So that is our point slope equation. We can go ahead and type that in to the first box here. It was y minus 2 equals 5 times, 5 times x minus our x1 was 4. Make sure we're right on that. All right, so on our next one, now we need to do that two-step process to get this into slope-intercept form. So on our first step, left side stays the same, and then we do 5 times x is 5x, and 5 times negative 4 is negative 20. Now we need to get rid of this 2. It's a negative 2, so we add 2 to both sides. These are going to cancel, leaving us y equals 5x. Negative 20 plus 2 is negative 18. So 5x minus 18. Y equals 5x minus 18. Make sure I did everything right on that one. And we're good. On this one, it says tell whether these lines are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. So the first one, we see it's already in slope-intercept form. But this one down here is not yet in slope-intercept form. So before we can determine whether these are perpendicular, parallel, or neither, we need to get this second equation into slope-intercept form. So to get it into slope-intercept form, all we have to do is get the y on one side by itself. So right now it has this 5x over here with it, so we need to get rid of that. It's a positive 5x, so we are going to subtract 5x, and we subtract 5x from both sides. So these will now cancel, leaving us a y on the left. And 35 and negative 5x are not like terms, so we cannot in any way combine them. We can't subtract these because they're not like terms. So they're both just going to remain over here. So negative 5x plus 35 is going to be our right side. So now we have it in slope-intercept form, and now we can compare it to our other equation, which was y equals negative 5x plus 10. So again, this is y equals mx plus b. Our m is the slope, it's the number next to the x. And if our slopes are the same, that means these are parallel. And negative 5 and negative 5 obviously are the same, so these are parallel lines. All right, number 16 here, we are back to finding numbers in a sequence. Numbers here are 20, 13, 6, and negative 1. So the first thing we need to do is find what our common difference is. Normally we would just take any of these numbers and subtract the one before, but you really don't even have to do that on this one since it's multiple choice. You could just look at what the common difference might be here. So if we look at these Since these numbers are going down, we are definitely going to have a negative common difference. So the only two here that have negative common differences are B and D. So we know one of these two are going to be our answer, and the common difference is going to be -7. So 6 minus 13 is -7. 20 minus, or 13 minus 20 is also -7. But let's go ahead and take a look at our equation here so that we can figure out what the 10th number in this sequence is going to be. So this is our sequence equation. It's a sub n equals a sub 1 plus d times n minus 1. So the two numbers we know here are a1. A1 means our first term. So our first term here is 20. So when you rewrite this, a to the sub n equals, a1 is the first term. So we're going to put 20 right here. That's going to be plus our d is our common difference. We already figured that out, was -7 times n minus 1. So next thing we have to do is find what our equation is going to be by distributing over here and then combining like terms. So we're going to keep it 20 there. -7x, let me erase that plus sign. So -7 times n is -7n. And -7 times -1 is going to be +7. So now we need to combine our like terms, and 20 plus 7 is 27. So a to the n is going to equal 27 minus 7n, or -7n plus 27. Those are the same. It doesn't matter what order you put them in. So now that we have this equation, well, we don't even really have to do any actual math here because it's going to be positive 27 minus 7n. So we already know this is going to be our answer here. It's going to be B. But just in case we didn't know that, so let's say these were the same and just our A10 was different and we had to figure out what A10 was, here's how we would solve that. We would just take n here and replace it with 10. So this would become 27 minus 7 times 10. -7 times 10 is -70. So it would be 27 minus 70, and 27 minus 70 is -43. So that is how we would figure out that 43 is our 10th term in this sequence. On number 18, it says the position of a helicopter search and rescue crew is shown on the graph. The shortest flight path to the shoreline is one that is perpendicular to the shoreline. This green line is the shoreline. Write an equation that represents this path. Now, so that's a lot of words there just to tell us to write an equation for this line. So a couple things to notice. First of all, this line is going up and to the right, so that means our slope is going to be positive. Now, it only gives us 1 point here, 14 and 4. So we go ahead and replace x1 and y1 here with 14 and 4. So x is 14, y is 4. So this equation here, this is our point slope form, becomes y minus 4 equals, we don't know our m yet, x minus 14. So now we need to find our slope. So here's our first point here, and we need to follow this down till we find another point. Anytime you see it goes perfectly across one of the corners of these boxes, you know that is a defined point. So here's one point. We can see another one here. Let's see if we go down. There's another one here. So let's use these two just because now the helicopter is not in our way. So I'm going to use this point here and this point here. And this is going from this point, always start with the point farther left and see how many up you need to go and how many to the right to get to the next point. So from here, we go up 1, 2, 3, and we go right 1, 2. So 1, 2, 3 up, 1, 2 to the right means our slope is 3 over 2. Alright, so now we need to use that two-step process to solve. In our first step, our left side is going to stay the same, and our right side we have to distribute 3 over 2 into both of the terms in the parentheses. So 3 over 2x just becomes 3 over 2x. And then 3 over 2 times 14. So multiplying fractions, I know, is something that always gives people problems. I mentioned in the last video, you should have some type of fraction calculator. If you don't have a physical calculator, if you have a smartphone, you can download the Fractions Plus calculator from the App Store. That's what I have on my phone. It's very helpful. Or you can simply Google fraction calculator, and one will come up that you can use there. But if you don't have any of those and you have to do it the old-fashioned way, here's how you do that. You do 3 over 2, and then times 14. Any whole number is just that number over 1, and then you just multiply straight across. So the first thing we're going to do here is 3 times 14, and 3 times 14 is 42, and then we just go straight across the bottom, 2 times 1, which is of course 2. It's also going to be negative because this was negative 14. So negative 42 over 2. If you put negative 42 over 2 in your calculator, you will see that this equals 21. So this would be minus 21. Next thing we have to do is get rid of this 4. It's a minus 4, so we're going to add 4 to both sides. Negative 21 plus 4 is, let's see, negative 17. So y equals 3 over 2x minus 17 should be our answer. Y equals, I already forgot what it was, 3 over 2x minus 17. Hopefully I did all that math correctly. And we're good. All right, just a couple more here. So this one is an easy one if you know how to graph numbers on a graph. So here we have 15, 13, 11, and 9. We have a common difference here of negative 2, but you don't even need to know that. Just remember, your x values for these are going to be 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then these are the y values. So our first x value is 1. Our first y value is 15. So 1 and come up to 15. Then we go over to 2, and we have 13. Go over to 3, and we have 11. And go over to 4, and we have 9. So these line up in a perfectly straight line, and that's a good way to see that you did that correctly. And we're good on that. So moving on. All right, our next one here is another sequence question. It says Juan saves $12 in the first week of the year. He will increase the amount he saves each week by $4. So what this is telling us here is that for each week, there's going to be $4 more that he is going to save. So our common difference here is 4. So, but again, how we did that previously, if you take any number, other than the first one, take any number and subtract the number before it. So 24 minus 20 is 4. 20 minus 16, also 4. 16 minus 12 is also 4. So our common difference here is 4. Our first number in the sequence is 12, because that's what he saved in the first week. So here is our sequence formula. A sub n equals a sub 1, which is our first term. Our first term here was 12, so we put that in, plus d, which is our common difference. Our common difference here was 4 times n minus 1. So let's see what they're asking us here. So first, they just want us to write the function that's going to represent this. All we have to do for that is distribute here and then combine like terms. So we have 12 plus, distribute over here, 4 times n is 4n, and 4 times negative 1 is negative 4. We combine our like terms of 12 and negative 4, and that gives us 4n plus 12 minus 4 is 8. So this is going to be our function that we would use to find any other number in this sequence. So we write this here for n, is it minus 8 or plus 8? Plus 8. Minus 4n plus 8. So now it wants to know, the goal is to save 68 in 1 week. So which week is he going to save $68? Now, this is a little different than what we've done in the past. In the past, we wanted to find out what the actual number is going to be. So we would plug whatever number in the sequence in for n. So we wanted to find the 15th number, we would replace n with 15. Now they want us to know what the end result is going, our end result is going to be 68. And they want us to find what week is that going to happen. So which number in the sequence is 68? So on this bottom part here, how many weeks do we have to go until we have 68 over here? So to find that, we would plug in 68 over here, and then just use our algebra to find out what n is going to equal. So the first thing we have to do here is subtract 8 from both sides, and we get 60 equals 4n, and then we are going to have to divide both sides by 4. And here 60 divided by 4 is 15. So that means in the 15th week, he is going to save $68. Now, in story problems like this, you should get some indications whether or not you did it correctly or not. If you got a fraction here, none of these are going to be fractions. We're at 24 and we're just going up $4 each time. So there's no way you can get a fraction or a decimal here in the weeks column. So they're just going up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. None of these are going to be decimals. So that should be a clue that you did something wrong if you have a fraction here. And also if, you could kind of think about where this might fall in. So if you got something like 200 weeks, that should immediately tell you something's wrong. Or if it said the 5th or 6th week, you should realize that this is only going up 4 each time, so it's not going to it's going to take a lot longer than that. All right, so this is our last question here. What is the equation in slope-intercept form, line parallel to y minus 5x plus 2 that goes to these coordinates? So this is another question where you first need to put it into point-slope form and then convert that to y-intercept. So first we need to plug in the numbers into this equation. This is our point-slope form. Plug in the ones that we know. First of all, we know since it's a parallel to this line, and the slope of this line is 5, that the slope of our new line is also going to be 5. So we have y minus our y1, and our y1 is 1, equals 5 times x minus x1, and our x1 is negative 2. And since it's minus and negative, we make that a plus. All right, two-step process here. First step, we need to multiply each of these. So we have 5 times x is 5x, and 5 times 2 is 10, so 5x plus 10 over on this side. Left side stays the same for the first step. Second step, we need to isolate our y, get rid of this negative 1. So we're going to add 1 to both sides, and we will end up with y equals 5x plus 11. Y equals 5x plus 11. Make sure that's correct. All right, and we're done. That's the end of this assignment. Make sure you finish it up. I would highly recommend that you get all your right answers in. I set it up so that you can take this twice, so I would definitely do it once with the video, me explaining everything and showing you how everything is done. And then once you've done that, I would definitely go through and maybe do this assignment a second time just for practice, to just kind of show yourself how well you know this stuff going in to our test tomorrow. So make sure you're getting all this done and be prepared for our test tomorrow. All right, so that's it for this one. I'll see you in the next one.